Good afternoon and welcome. We are Liberate Tate. My name is Hayley, this is Hannah, and this is Mel. And we're very, very pleased to be here in Leuven this afternoon and to be part of this wonderful few-day-long conference that's happened.
So we'd like to start by introducing you to a little bit of the strategy that goes behind the performance work that we make. So we see our work as sitting within a wider set of structures and systems, so the points of leverage within the oil industry that we want to change, the people and departments that make up Tate, the cultural institution, oil sponsorship in London more broadly, and a genealogy of performance and protest that each has its own theory and practice. So we're going to kind of focus in our lens on each of these systems to introduce the strategy behind what we do. So firstly, international oil companies, the things that we want to change. So the international oil industry depends on various sectors to maintain its profits and its everyday operations. So that includes industry stuff, finance, the money behind projects, legal teams of support. It depends on relationships with key governments in different parts of the world. And then external affairs. And that's where we find the cultural institutions, which BP and Shell, like them, depend on to develop their social license to operate.
So this slide here is a diagram that represents the governance structure at Tate. So our work in Liberate Tate is not only with performance, but it's also in analysing, commenting on and intervening in those governance structures. And I'm going to introduce you to the two most influential and powerful people at Tate. The first is Sir Nicholas Sirota on your left. He's the Tate director, and he's been Tate director since 1988. He's described as the Chief Executive and Accounting Officer. On your right, Lord Brown of Maddenley. He's the chair of the Tate Trustees. And more interestingly, he was Chief Executive of BP from 1995 to 2007.
But Tate's not the only gallery that takes money from big oil industry. This represents all of the key cultural institutions in the UK. They're all sponsored either by BP or Shell. And at the top there you can see what we call the BP Art Block. That's four of the biggest museums in London, which is the Royal Opera House, the British Museum, the National Portrait Gallery and the Tate. They all take money from BP. And the UK public perception is that it's BP's money that makes these museums and galleries free to enter. But actually, if you look at the white slivers that you can see on those pie charts, the very thin line, that's all BP gives as a total of the amount of money, yes, exactly, the amount of money it gets from income from various different channels. So in return for that tiny amount of money, BP's logo is scattered all over the galleries. And I don't know, how different do you think this gallery would be if it had big kind of oil corporate logos all over it? Very different. BP's name isn't just in its logos, it features in exhibition and event titles. And in 2010, Tate's Summer Party celebrated 20 years of BP sponsorship.
So we saw that event as a prime opportunity, and we made two performances during that event. The first was 12 people carried BP oil barrels to the steps at the main entrance of the gallery where the guests to the event were entering. And meanwhile, two women dressed in flowery bouffant dresses carried 10 litres of oil beneath their dresses and spilled that oil at the champagne reception. So we see the work that we do as fitting within a wider set of practices by artists and activists. And as such, it relates to institutional critique, it relates to challenging power in corporate spaces, challenging corporate power in public spaces more broadly. It relates to political theory, to art philosophy, and there are some resonances in the work that relate to, say, the practice of Hans Hacker or the work of the Guerrilla Girls.
Today we're going to present three of our performances: Human Cost, The Gift, and Parts Per Million.